Thank you everyone for coming to this webinar. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. My name is Cristina Villanueva. I am the Director of Fisheries Solution at EDF, and I am representing the Secretariat of Partners and within the small scale fisheries research and collaboration hub. We usually call it the SSF hub, and we're really happy that you can join us today. We are having this webinar co-hosted by our partner organizations WWF and SmartFish as a special guest. Now this session will be held in English and questions will be directed to presenters through the Q&A. However, people can also ask questions in Spanish too, as both all of the presenters today speak Spanish. Today, we're meeting to improve our understanding of community conservation enterprises and to showcase WWF's new e-course on this subject. And basically, the agenda today has three important sections. The first one is an introduction on community conservation enterprises. Then we will talk with Javier about SmartFish as a case study. And finally, we will have an overview of WWF's e-course, which you can also find in the SSF Hub Resource Library. Okay, so before we begin, I would like to introduce you to our facilitator today. Andrea Iriberri has over 12 years of experience working with artisan cooperatives and social entrepreneurs and has been consultant with WWF to better support community conservation enterprises for over 4 years. Bienvenida, Andrea. Now, our guest speaker is Javier Van Kauler. Javier is the Executive Director of SmartFish, Inc., the only trading company in Mexico that focuses on artisanal Mexican sustainable seafood. Javier is a scientist by training, and before joining SmartFish, he worked in the food and beverage industry with Grupo Contramar. Bienvenido, Javier. Okay, before we dive in, let me set the stage. Small-scale fisheries employ more than 90% of the world's fishers and fish workers, about half of whom are women. Fishing and related activities often underpin the local economies in coastal communities and have a multiplier effect in other sectors. What's really important to keep in mind is that coastal communities and small-scale fishers have served as traditional stewards of coastal ecosystems for hundreds of years now, because their survival is inextricably linked to the health of these ecosystems. They are the best stewards of our oceans. To support small-scale fisheries, FAO led the development of the SSF guidelines, which were endorsed 10 years ago. Next slide, please. The SSF guidelines are the first international instrument dedicated entirely to the small-scale fisheries sector. Now, these guidelines are global in scope. They guide dialogue, policy processes, and actions at national, regional, and international levels, and contribute to achieving the Sustainable Development Goals. And basically, they focus on a few key issues that we want to highlight today. The first one is securing tenure rights and managing resources responsibly. The second is supporting social development and decent work, and improving value chains from catching through processing to trading fish, and these are the two main things we want to focus on: community conservation enterprises, promoting gender equity, and taking into account climate change and disaster risk. Now, practitioners supporting small-scale fisheries and the communities that depend on them can play a crucial role in the implementation of these guidelines, particularly in three areas. The first one is capacity development and specialized trainings, as the guidelines recommend that states and other stakeholders, such as practitioners, provide capacity building to allow small-scale fishers to benefit from market opportunities. Supporting value chains by assisting in developing sustainable value chains for small-scale fisheries, promote fair trade practices, certifications, and standards compliance to enhance economic opportunity for fishers. And finally, partnerships and networking. So practitioners can facilitate partnerships among various stakeholders, from communities to governments, academia, industry, and other NGOs, to strengthen the implementation of the guidelines through shared resources, expertise, and experiences. Now, to ensure practitioners are effective partners for fishers, not only in the implementation of the guidelines, but also so they benefit from market opportunities and foster sustainable practices, we need to be better equipped to help community organizations. And we hope this webinar helps serve that purpose. I will now hand it off to Andrea so we can dive in. And I'm sorry, we're a few slides behind, but we can pass them really quickly. And over to you, Andrea.
Thank you so much, Chris, for that small context and great intro for this session. Hello, everyone. As Chris said, my name is Andrea, and I'm super excited to be here, not only because of the public and the people that are getting connected, and hopefully we can showcase a little bit more about the e-learning course and everything that we have been working on, but also because we have a great case study today that I think it's always very valuable to hear stories of like the actual field and how everything that we're talking about or we're gonna talk about is gonna it lays on in the true world, right? So I want to start just by having some pointers of like what is actually a CCE, because we're going to be talking a lot about this, and just to establish like a baseline for everyone. So CCEs, as the acronym says, it's the definition of a community conservation enterprise. And I know most of you must be working already or know about this context, but what we like to define as a community conservation enterprise are enterprises that are engaging in a commercial activity, that are benefiting the community, and that are enabling the conservation in the space where they're impacting, right? I like to define it in like a three word way with the three P's: people, planet, and profit, right? So we are trying to always consider and define the community conservation enterprises among and around these three pillars and these three ways that we are understanding them. Some of the characteristics of CCEs are that they are usually small and in different contexts. They're very locally run, and they provide livelihoods to the spaces where they are impacting by the enterprise side part of the equation. But of course, throughout that process, they support and protect the habitat and the biodiversity in the spaces where they are. So a lot of successful CCEs around the world have been crucial allies for WWF and for all of our partners as ambassadors of conservation and ambassadors of the work that we want to do and the impact that we want to have in the future. So this is some of the characteristics we have around CCEs. So after all this work we have been doing and we have been working, it's been very clear that there are 6 ways in which we can support CCEs throughout the process of building and scaling and growing. And these are the different ways in which we can support them and help them grow, right? So the first one has to do with the community building. As we said, most of these CCEs are locally run, and they are community leaderships that have sometimes to be engaged into actors, social capital that is being built throughout the building of the CCE. So this is a very important pillar. We do some services, some product and services development, of course, as we are helping the community design and appropriate for whatever the high potential strategy they're generating and the product or service they're developing. We do some work in the operational capacity, of course, understanding what are the capacities of the business, of the strategies that we're providing, and how we're going to make it work, right? Then, of course, we have environmental monitoring, which has to do a lot with what we do in WWF in the sense of conservation and how we're going to contribute into those conservation goals, and how are we monitoring those impacts that we're having. Because as we are building these CCEs, we want to be very sure that we are very conscious about the impact that we are having in the environment. We do some work in funding and financing as we provide some connections for the CCEs into the funding or financial world. And of course, the part of market access. How can we connect these CCEs with local or international, regional, global markets and customers as we hope for these CCEs to grow into those markets? So these are mostly, like in a vague and general way, some of the ways that some of the different roles that we have in supporting these CCEs in the way that we push and want to help them to grow. But I think one of the most important things in the process and the understanding and all the knowledge that we have as WWF have to be with the way we want to work with these communities. And I love this phrase that comes from the nature pay approach, and we're going to share a little bit about this guide with you, because the course is it's based also in a lot of research made by nature pay. For conservation to be effective, it must work in synergy with communities. And synergy here has to do with actually this very organic and whole place in which we are getting into working with these CCEs in a way that we are raising the whole livelihood and the whole understanding about of this space and this community, and respecting everything that we have to do in the process of growing and understanding these CCEs, right? So this is basically a baseline about what CCEs is, a very crash course about what CCEs are and how they are defined for us. And before we move into the next into our guest speaker, that I think is going to be very relevant for us to as I said, redefine everything that we talk about into like what is actually happening in the field. I would love to show you guys this internal paper that was made by WWF Mexico that basically has studied the 5 factors that affect coastal CCEs, and what are those successful factors that help and have pushed CCEs into being successful. And just to name some of them, of course, clear understanding on the sustainable use of the resources is valuable, and it's super important for the success of the CCE. Defining a community with rights, recognized rights, and the ability to be for them to appropriate for those values. And I think that's also something that is very it's usually something that comes a lot in our webinars and in our talks, because it's something that is challenging, but it's a defining factor for success for CCEs. Or, for example, the aid of developing a high value national or international market, the importance of this market fit, and how these CCEs are gonna access into those markets and are gonna take advantage around everything that those markets are gonna bring. And I think definitely this is the best segue for us to present Javier, or to give him the voice now, because of course he and SmartFish are doing a lot of these different factors and are using these different factors on the field. So I guess that is the best way for us to showcase really what a CCE is, and how these factors are really relevant for that. So Javier, the stage is yours.
Thank you for this nice introduction, and I hope my presentation rise to this to your introduction. And I'm going to share my screen now. I'm really but I just prepared this like very short presentation, and I hope I can go more or less fast through it, so I can leave I think more space for questions and conversation. So SmartFish, we call it the company, SmartFish Inc. is a Mexican triple impact enterprise or company, and we started by trying to solve these problems, these three problems: the oceans, the fishers, and the consumers. So we know, I'm not going to talk very much about this. We know there's a lot of overexploitation. We know the oceans and the species are at very high risk. And at the same time, you have overexploitation, and you have maybe 50% of artisanal fishers in the world are living below the poverty line. And at the same time, you have customers that want to buy more responsible food, but they get maybe like screwed by the intermediaries, and they got a lot of substitution, and there's a lot of slavery in the value chain, a lot of bad practices that we as consumers like almost never know about. Our phrase, when I introduce SmartFish for the first time to someone, I always say that we want to, as the presentation of Andrea said, we want to fishers to earn more fishing less, right? And break in that way, break the negative cycle of overexploitation and poverty. But in order to do that, you have to have a better fish or a better product, so you can sell it in a better or a high-end market. So we work, and we were created, or we were born from SmartFish, sorry, the NGO. So the NGO works with the co-ops, and they work with them so they can improve the way they handle the fish, the fishing techniques, the way they kill the fish and bleed it. And we work with them so they improve their processing capability if it is possible, so they can also process the fish, not only catch it. And then they help them also develop business practices, better business practices. Usually fishermen are like how you say, pay price takers. So they will go fish, come back to land and sell the fish to whatever price someone is going to give them. And by working with us, they have to start working on a more like an enterprise company, because they have to catch the fish, then sell it to us. But we negotiate with them prices that last for at least a year. And we do different things. And SmartFish, the company, we call ourselves, we changed this good intermediary. I should have changed it in the presentation. We say that we are a social intermediary, and we differentiate the product that we get, that it has to be certified or in a FIP. We shorten the value chain. We have our own stores in Mexico City to sell the fish, and we also sell to hotels and restaurants. We have done like 3 or 4 exports. We pay them between maybe 40% to, in some cases, we have reach like 400% more than what they were getting paid before. But we usually use the number 100% more than the market. We have full traceability with the fish that we bring to the market, and we have full transparency. And this thing is important because full transparency and open book negotiation. We just have it there at the beginning, like as a good practice, but it's one of the most disruptive practices that we have. Open book negotiation means that we show the co-ops when we negotiate with them the price. We show them how much we earn from every kilogram of fish that we sell, and we show them all the costs that are involved in the steps between catching the fish and reaching the end customer. And this negotiation is always very transparent. We show them that they can see it in our webpage. We sign a contract that doesn't have too many requisites, only that they maintain their sustainability commitment and social practices. But we offer them the price just from the beginning, right? We're not like really negotiating down their price or anything. We go usually with a higher price. So we are a triple impact company, and we have fishers that can earn more by fishing less, and we can avoid overfishing and bycatch because we only buy, because of the way they have to kill the fish, we can only buy fish that was caught with a hook or with a trap. So we don't have bycatch with the species that we are using. We are helping them create more job positions in their communities, and some of them are used by women. So we are trying to help like bringing more of the women from the fishermen co-ops into the benefits of the co-op, and we have to make a margin to scale, right? So we are working right now with 9 co-ops, around 900 fishers. And last year we moved up to, I think, a little bit more than 60 tons of fish. And it was the same number more or less in 2021. But then in 2022, we didn't have any fish. There wasn't any fish on the sea. I'm going to talk a little bit later about that. And we expect to grow in the next years, so we can work with more than 40 co-ops maybe. I know Ceci is there, I think, in the call, and when I say this number, she always has like a headache, because they have to involve 40 co-ops and work with them and bring them to the place that we need them to be. So it's a lot of work that we have to do in the next years. And this is just like a little bit of our history, and I put it here. It has a lot of information just to know like the path that maybe a company like this has to follow, or at least we follow. So we were founded or created in 2015 with a grant to create like a pilot of a company. And in 2016, we did our first pilot of like trying to sell fish through a retailer. It was Superama in Mexico. That's part of the Walmart group. And it didn't work really good. They have different issues, like a lot of rotation in the supermarket. So you have to, every week you have to explain to the people working at the supermarket what are the benefits and what differentiates the fish that you are giving them. They really treat the fish very bad in the supermarket. And then in 2018, I joined the company. I am partner of the company, and I joined the company in 2018. And in that year, we opened our first store in Mexico City. And from then, we realized that it was a good channel for us, like a good selling channel. So we opened that store, and we did an export in that year. And we were working with one co-op at that moment. Then in 2019, we ended the year working with 3 co-ops. And the store that we have in Mexico started to have decent numbers, not very good ones, but decent, as you can see in the income here. for the first years, 2018 and 19. Then in 2020, in this is the like 2021 are the pandemic years, right? But in that year, we got our B Corp certification, and we were named one of the top 25 businesses by the Sustainability and Conservation Alliance in the US, and we managed to grow like 200% our sales and open a second store in Mexico City. And the same during that pandemic years in 2021, we were named one of the best 50 small businesses by United Nations, the 50 best in the world. And we were MIT Solvers together with SmartFish, the NGO. And we started selling to Iberostar. And so then we have to open a warehouse and open a Riviera Maya operation. And then in 2022, we didn't have almost any fish. So we couldn't have enough fish to supply to, for example, Iberostar. So we lost that customer at that moment. But we kept growing, right? We received a funding from Conservation International Ventures. We opened our 4th store in 2022. We were the winners of the IKEA New Ventures acceleration program. And we were working at that moment with 5 co-ops. And what did I add this number of co-ops in the years? Just to show that we are, how can I say this? Either if when we are struggling, like financially, or struggling with the business side of the company, we are still making impact, right? Because we are adding co-ops into the model. We are increasing the number of co-ops and fishermen that we can work with, and we are increasing the volume of fish that we can sell. So that's why I'm putting that, because last year, 2023 was a very, I think for me at least, like how can I say, like mentally, it was a very difficult year because we were struggling with sales, and at some time I was just looking at the numbers, and then you move your head and you say, okay, but we are doing impact. Like in the impact side of the company, we are doing it okay. We are growing, so we have to just keep the business running, right? So in 2023, we ended the year working with 9 co-ops. We opened our 5th store in 2023, and then we have to close one store, the one that we opened in 2022 because it didn't work, and in 2023 was the largest volume of fish that we purchased. It was more than 60 tons. So this is more or less the numbers, right? And here in the income and EBITDA, you can see that we are growing in income, but we are having issues in the EBITDA, right? We are not winning money right now, and that's something that always concerns a company. But if you look only in the numbers, that's what you see. But then we have to start, and this is one of the things here in the challenges. Maybe not here. Yeah, here is how can you express in numbers in US dollars the impact that you are having, right? So how can you show that as a part of the return of investment? So that is one of the challenges that we face, that we are trying to solve. So when you go and talk to investors, you can show them and put a money value on the impact that you're doing. For example, last year, if I add up the extra that we paid above market and the processing that we pay co-ops, for example, that adds up like 8%, maybe a little something around 8% of our income. So our EBITDA will not look that bad if we could show that as part of the results, right? So the challenges that we face usually, like I separate the challenges. This is that to implement the company and grow the company. the balance between sales capacity and volume of fish is always an issue because we don't have infinite money. So we need to sell the fish that we buy, but we need to increase the fish that we can purchase so we can have or reach customers that need more fish. The stores have been a very good tool to do that because you can do it like you can maybe regulate the pace at where you're having the fish that you can sell in the stores and stuff like that. But when we want to reach other customers, it's very difficult to reach them with the capacity that we have, and grow the capacity is not fast because you have to work with the co-ops. You have to do a lot of changes to bring a co-op into the point that we can purchase from them. If we talk about large co-ops like the ones that are in the North Pacific in Mexico, that those are maybe some of the best co-ops maybe in the world in their organization, the size they have and everything. It's easier to start working with them, right? If we go and approach them and they have interest or they approach us to work, we can maybe start purchasing from them maybe between 4 to 6 months after the initial contact. But with smaller co-ops, the amount of time that goes between the initial contact and the moment that we can purchase the fish, it can take maybe more than a year or sometimes 2 years. So adding co-ops into the model can be very difficult, at least in the way we're working right now. And so this is one of these challenges. And access to real impact investment, that's also a challenge, right? We are always looking for money, but impact investment or impact money is not always impact money, right? Sometimes the interest rates that they have are very large, sometimes larger than the banks. In Mexico, a low interest rate in Mexico right now is maybe 17% per year. That's something that we cannot pay with the model that we have. And another challenge is that we need more species, right? When we're looking for fish to sell, there are not many species that are already certified or are on a FIP or are named on the Seafood Watch guide, right? And those are the conditions, the first condition that we have in order to approach a co-op or to buy the fish they have. So we need more species on FIPS, and we need FIPS maybe to grow faster, right? And then we have other issues. For example, we are a B Corp certified. We are a certified B Corp, and we are in the recertification process right now. And it's like they don't recognize FIPS as part of the sustainable or responsible fishing, right? So they don't recognize the model. So that's an issue there. But with customers, that's also a problem. If you want to go, it was a problem before, for example, at the beginning with Iberostar, because they didn't recognize FIPS. Then they did a lot of work with WWF, and they changed their guidelines, and they started accepting FIPS as one of the not certification, but one of the conditions they could have for purchasing fish. So that's some of the challenges. Then I add these environmental and external challenges, right? So lower catches, in some cases not fish at all on an entire year. In 2022, for example, it happened to us with at least two of the co-ops that they didn't catch any fish during the year. One of the co-ops that was very important for us because we were buying jurel for them, and that was the fish that we were selling to Iberostar, for example. So they didn't have any fish. Like we buy from them, I think, less than a ton of fish in an entire year. And the fish, in some of the time during the season or regular season, there was any fish, and then there was fish. But because the water was warmer, there was a lot of life above under the sea, so the fish was eating and has their stomach full, so they didn't catch the hook. So the fishermen will talk to us, even send us videos like, look, the fish is there. Here is the boat, there's the fish, but they are not catching the hook. So we couldn't buy any fish at that moment. And that was a year where we invest a lot in growing our capacity. So in that moment, that was very challenging for us because we expend a lot of money to be ready to sell to other customers, and then we didn't have fish. And that's one of the reasons we need to work with more co-ops, right? So in some cases, what happens also is that they are starting to have, I think, maybe more days with bad weather. And it doesn't have to be really bad, but if it is more windy than usual, they cannot go out fishing with small boats. So some of those are environmental. I know there are a lot more, but some of these are ones that I was thinking yesterday about them, and I put it here. And external, I put external challenges because it's challenges of the business are just like the regular channels, challenges. But externals, for example, is organized crime, right? That is forcing co-ops to sell fresh fish to organized crime. So you can lose a source of fish because they cannot sell it to you. Or an organized crime doesn't care about sustainability, so they force them to fish whatever they need. This is a challenge, and at the same time, it can be like an opportunity at this time because a lot of co-ops, not a lot, but some co-ops are now approaching us to start selling to us fish that is already processed or that can be processed instead of fresh. We had some like robbing of cargo, so we have to ensure now the cargo that we ship by truck to Mexico, and that increases the cost. The first buyers, the existing intermediaries, have working practices that make it difficult for co-ops to sell to other clients. Like in Mexico, you have to have an aviso de arribo. That's that when the fishermen go out or the co-ops the fishermen go out and come back with the fish, then they have to tell the authority how much fish they caught, right? And the authority will give them an aviso de arribo. That's a paper that they have. And if you wanna make the invoice for that fish, you need to add that aviso de arribo into the invoice. And in order to move the fish from the shore into the cities, you need a guía de pesca. And that other document, for that document, you need the invoice and you need the aviso de arribo, right? So you need that to move the fish. So if I want to purchase from a co-op, I need the co-op to be able to generate those documents. And in some cases, the first buyer generates the documents for them. But when they wanna sell fish to other people, they just stop generating the documentation. And they, in some cases, I think they even have connections with the authority, so the authority will not generate the documentation for them. So those are practices that are very difficult to overcome in some moments or places. Co-ops capture different species, and most of them are not on FIPS, but they look for buyers that can buy all of their catches, right? So we need to have more species that are certified so we can become a more interesting buyer for co-ops. And I think this is something that we've been seeing now, that organized crime is making more difficult for NGOs, for example, to work on the field. And some of the NGOs are struggling to I don't know, to improve the size of a FIP, or to send people to work on the field, because they are working in remote areas that in some cases are controlled by organized crime. So it is kind of scary sometimes. So that, I think, lower the velocity at which FIPS can be implemented, or more co-ops can be added to FIPS and stuff like that. Again, there are different challenges, and I'm sure other enterprises are facing other challenges. These are the ones that I would say are more present to us. I mean, there are other challenges, like there's a lot of companies that are claiming that they have sustainable or responsible seafood, and we know they don't have it, but they are selling to other customers, and they take part of the customers that we can reach. So there's like very bad competition in that sense, but that's something that is always there, right? So this one is, I think, something that I mentioned in another presentation some months ago about the challenges of working with co-ops, and I don't know if it's a challenge to do it like that, but you need to create what we experience as a company is that paying more for the fish is not the only thing that you need to do, right? We try to do that in some, for example, in the Yucatan area when we wanted to buy octopus. So we approach some co-ops and we offer them more money. And it's like we went from one co-op to the other, maybe 2-3 times. And the co-ops would say, yes, we can sell it to you. And then they will not sell it to us because they didn't have any commitment to us, only the price, but that wasn't enough. So what we realized at that moment, or what we understood, is that the co-ops that work with SmartFish NGO develop a relationship. They trust the NGO, they trust the people that is implementing the better practices and everything, and they say, okay, so it's not only about more money, they are helping us improve what we are and what we can achieve. So then you have a much stable relationship. And then after the NGO goes away, I think we've been seeing different things, but we can still keep working with the co-op if we maintain a good relationship with them during the entire time. And one of the things of maintaining a good relation is that you have to be I don't know, true to your words. I don't know how you say that, but you have to, whatever you say to them, you have to fulfill. You have to live to their expectations, I think. So when the NGO works with the co-ops, we establish deeper relationships, and that allows us to establish a better relationship. Then large, strong co-ops are easier to work with, as I mentioned before. But usually they are larger because they have higher value species, right? They have, for example, lobster or sea urchin or abulon. So they have species that give them or allows them to earn more money. And fish is just something else that they can do, but it's not their main priority. So they work with us and they understand, and for them it's better because they can offer the fishermen in the co-op, they can offer them a better payment, and they can create jobs for women in the co-op. And they understand that, and I think they appreciate that, and that's why they work with us in some of the cases. But if they have to, for example, if they have to land a boat, to paint it, to give some maintenance so it can be ready for the lobster season, they will do that always before going out fishing for us. So working with large co-ops give us advantages, but they have this big disadvantage. And working with smaller co-ops, we can really make a change there because they live catching fish. So if we can pay them 100% more, we can change a lot of the conditions they have. But working with these co-ops is much more difficult. In a lot of the cases, these co-ops are not going to have the volume of fish necessary, for example, to have their own processing plant. And so we have to come up with solutions to process that fish, to move that fish. So there's a lot of more difficulties to work with small scale co-ops, but I think those are the ones where we can have the biggest impact. And I think that's it for me. I'm gonna stop sharing my screen, and if you have questions, I will love that, because I think I'm better at answering questions than at presenting information.
No, Javier, that was great. That was a great presentation. I have to say, I admire always your presentation, specifically when you talk a lot about these challenges. I think sometimes as entrepreneurs, we tend to hide a little bit the challenges that we're having. But I think it is super important for us to be open about those, and especially if they're so sometimes big and sometimes external, and we are looking for those solutions. And I can imagine that everyone is being inspired by everything that you presented, and I can see it also in the questions that a lot of people are being get to feel the same things that you're doing because they're working on the same field and they're having the same challenges. So in a sense, it feels like a collection of like getting together to find the ways to do this better, right? So thank you so much for that presentation. So I'm gonna start with some of the questions, and please feel free to still ask the questions in the chat or in the questions section, so we can have those questions for Javier. So Stephanie says, you're doing an amazing job with SmartFish. I live in La Paz, and the office of the SA is here. Is in the future, is there a way we can purchase sustainable traceable fish locally, domestically, outside the Mexico City place? Is there like some plans of that?
Yeah,
And
but
maybe
like,
I would add, is there like have you figured out if there's a e-commerce kind of way that you can, I don't know, like I'm just adding into that question.
yeah, Cha-Cha-Chan. It's like, I mean, yeah, we are planning on expanding our operation, and one of our objectives is to have our own processing plant in La Paz, so we can remove some of these barriers with that small scale co-ops have, and we can bring the food. It's a huge project that we are just starting to. That's why I'm going to the free and stuff like that, right? Starting to raise money for. But if once we are doing that, we are going to open store in La Paz. So I hope maybe in a couple of years, maybe I hope less. I hope you will be able to buy some fish in La Paz from SmartFish. We have online sales in Mexico City, but shipping all the fish that we sell is frozen, and shipping frozen seafood is not very easy to other places, and the cost of shipping is very expensive. So the cost of the end product is very large. We have some alliances with other companies that sell, for example, in Querétaro, Guadalajara, or Monterrey, where you can buy fish from SmartFish in their stores. But we don't have like shipping online in Mexico, and I think it's very difficult to ship online to ship food in Mexico.
Great, thank you, Javier. Then we have a question from Achmat. I hope I said that name correctly. He's from WWF Indonesia, and he asks about the best way to overcome or to deal with existing intermediaries that are already placed in the co-ops, as they have a very strong bond with the fishers. And how do you if makes
Yep.
Yep.
I understand the question. It's one of the things that we have, right? And at this moment, I think we are very like a very little company, and the volumes that we are moving are not really like a concern, I would think, for these larger first buyers. And that's one of the things. The other thing is that our model works better with fish that has now a low value in the market, right? Because it's not being treated well. If you process a fish correctly, if you catch it well, and you bleed it, and you do a lot of things, you can improve the quality of the fish, right? And I always said to people that the best fish is the one that was better processed, not a species of fish is better than another, but just how you handle that fish. So we approach co-ops, and they usually what happens, I think, is that these first buyers are more interested in buying the fish that give them more money, not the low value fish.
Mm-hmm.
So at the beginning, they are not that worried about that. That's one of the things. And the other is what I mentioned before. I think the job that the NGO is doing is determinant in that. They I always say it like a comment like that, but I know that one of the one of the people that works in the NGO is like the godfather of a daughter of a fisherman, right, in one of the co-ops. So they establish a deeper relationship with them, and so the fishermen start believing in a better way. And the other one is that when you, I mean, the fishermen or the co-ops, they are very intelligent people. They are very resilient. They are always looking for different options. And when they realize that the ones that they have this first buyer, when they realize this first buyer is screwing them, they try to look for better ways. And if we manage to be there, then we are a better way for them. And I think that's one. And I know Ceci, I think, is in the call, and maybe she can type a better answer for that. And the second question here of Ahmad about how you ensure, one of the conditions we have is that the fish has to be killed using a technique that is called ikejime technique, where you have to take the fish alive out of the water, and you have to kill it with a like a knife on the brain. So it's a very instant, like a 3-second, and the fish is dead, and then you bleed that fish. You have to take out the blood of the fish, and that's very important because that increases the quality of the fish a lot, and at the same time gives you a very easy way to recognize if they are doing that, because if they don't bleed the fish correctly, you can see it just in the package, right? And at the same time, this like lower the speed at which fishermen can take fish from the water, because they have to take it, kill it, bleed it, and put it on ice. And they have to put it on ice. So that reduces the amount of kilograms that they can catch for every time they travel, because they have to have ice on the boat. So these requirements that we have allow us to have a little bit more control on what they are doing. But yeah, I think the ikejime shows you very fast if the fish was killed with the ikejime technique and caught with a hook or a trap.
Javier, just like a follow-up question, how much time does the NGO work with the fishers? As I understand, they work with them and then they kind of go to another place, and then you guys come in, like, well, the enterprise comes in. So how's like the timing around that?
I mean, I think the NGO they have an entire protocol of steps that they follow. They do a research before on the co-op, and they have an evaluation process that gives them a number. And with that number, they know from the beginning if that co-op is going to be able to reach the place or not, or what they have to improve in the working with them. So it depends a lot on the size of the co-op, their organization level, the species they have. But I know what I mentioned before is like this 3 to 6 months is the time that it takes for the co-op, for the NGO to bring a large organized co-op to the place that they can sell to us. And 2 years, I think, might be the average to put them like market ready. And then again, it will depend, I think, in the co-op, but I think they can stay working with the co-op for up to 3 more years before they get out of the co-op. But they start, I think, getting like out in steps. And so at the beginning, for example, the communication with the co-op at the beginning for purchasing is through the NGO, right? One of the person of the NGO is working at the co-op, and they will say, they catch this amount of fish. they have this package, they have that, so we can purchase. And then they stop doing that, and they just go when they have to prepare the shipment. And then they stop doing that, and so they do it like that. And yeah, I think Ceci is the one to answer completely this question. But I think it goes like that. And the NGO works also as like a pipeline. They are working with co-ops already that we are not working with still. And at some time they are going to invite us to make an offer to them. And in some cases we ask them if they know if they know of FIPS of co-ops that are working with a species that we need. So we know that we can offer a better price to that co-op and stuff like that. But I think for the NGO can take they can work with a co-op, I think, from 3 to 5 years or something like that.
That's great. I think that's part of the most thing that I admire about you guys' model is this congruent, like I don't know, model that you guys have created that builds upon both of this, the enterprise and the NGO, and how that feels into building the values of like everything that you guys are doing for the future of those, as you said, not only the enterprise future, but the future of the impact that you guys are doing. So we have one last question of Pablo, and he says that besides the need of like growing the volumes or the capacity of processing the fish, what are the other characteristics that you consider are important for a co-op to better or improve to get into your guys' model, into the model that you guys are doing?
Okay. Yeah, I mean, it's some of the things that I mentioned, right? Is they need to have, if we want to purchase from a co-op and we need them to process the fish, right? They have to have processing capabilities, and they have to have at least a truck so they can deliver the fish from the processing capability to a place where they can ship it to us. And if they don't have that, then we need to provide that in some way. They have to have a level of organization that allows them to the co-op to buy the fish from the fishermen. Not all the time the co-ops can do that. They have to have enough organization so they can process or catch the fish and move it to a place where we are going to process it. They have, I think, it's organization capabilities is important. And that's some of the things that the NGO works a lot with them, is how they develop, I mean, the thing with co-ops is that there's the amount of different cases is infinite, right? So you have co-ops that you need to go and learn from them how to organize a company, and then you have co-ops that are very small. And I don't know if I know, like, to put an example, one of the co-ops that we work with, the president of the co-op doesn't know how to read, so he cannot answer an email, or so there's no way to communicate with him directly. So you need to communicate with the secretary, and in that co-op, then the secretary becomes a very important role for us, because that's the only link that you have with the president of the co-op, because you cannot send him a message, right? And he cannot read a contract. So that can be one level of organization, right? So I think as the co-ops are receiving, we need to have, there is no way we can build a one dual model. We need to make a model for every scenario that we face. And the co-ops is the same. They have to adjust capabilities. If they cannot adjust, then that's one of the challenges and needs that we need. That we need a co-op that really wants to work with us also, right? That really wants to improve. For example, if a co-op is happy with the situation in which they are now, there's no way we can change anything there. But in our experience, most of the co-ops are not happy with the situation in which they are now.
Totally. Thank you so much, Javier. I don't know if you have any final thoughts. Thank you. We thank you for your time. We thank you for your openness and showcasing SmartFish and everything that you guys are doing. It is always a pleasure to hear you, and I can imagine for everyone in the audience also. So thank you.
Thank you for your time and the time of this, like almost 40 people here.
Thank you so much. And we will still, if you guys have any other questions, and we can make them get to Javier in some point after the session. Thank you so much. I know that you are catching a flight, and we are very thankful for your time again. So thank you, Javier.
Thank you. I'm calling the Uber now, but yeah.
Thank
Bye.
you so much. So I hope everyone is as inspired as I am. I think, as I said at the beginning, there is no better way for us to showcase the importance of CCEs and the impact that it has, as showing cases like SmartFish that are on the field, that are having those challenges, that are working with those challenges, and that we are, of course, trying to understand better and get the better practices, and how to actually develop and better share those skills and those knowledges that are happening. So this is one of the reasons why this e-learning course, and I'm gonna move now into showcasing a little bit about the e-learning course that WWF has developed around community conservation enterprises, and everything that it is inside this e-learning course. It is an e-learning course that has been worked upon in live cohorts. This e-learning course at the beginning was a workshop that was being provided in a live version. Around more than 300 practitioners around the world have already taken the course, and we have learned a lot from all these master classes that we have provided in these live cohorts, and developed the best topics, the best tools. We have engaged into putting them all together in an e-learning course. We developed an e-learning course because we want everyone to go in their own pace. We want everyone to get in contact with this knowledge in their own format and in their own ways. It's a 10-hour long e-learning course, so you can go in depending on the hours you have available, and a lot of the knowledge that we bring into this e-learning course is around these case studies and around understanding all this valuable knowledge that is on the field, and how we can share it better with everyone, right? So the course is divided into 8 models, and it has a lot of videos and quizzes and actionable tools. We wanted to make it as functional, as usable, as valuable as possible. So every single piece in the e-learning course has and brings tools and videos and all information in the more practical way we can find. So I am now showcasing you a little bit about how it looks, how the e-learning looks and feels a little bit. Of course, every model has a little bit of videos, introduction videos, and a lot of information that it's also gonna be extra into if you want to explore more into one of the topics. For example, here, as I said, nature pace is one of the pieces in the e-learning course, and we have you can learn a little bit about what nature pace is, but then you can dive into even deeper with all the different downloads that you can have from each of the different pages, right? One of the models I like to showcase because it's a very popular tool that we use in the course is the Sustainable Business Model Canvas. And we tried, as I said, we approach each of the models and the tools that we showcase in the e-learning as a whole, right? So we will showcase not only how the tool works, and we will have videos or audios on how explaining how this tool works and the approach that we're trying to showcase. But most of them, we will showcase how to use the tool by using a case study from the field. So for example, in this case, for the Sustainable Business Model Canvas, we use the case study in India from solar energy for fish drying. So we talk a little bit about the case, and then we put it into practice. We showcase you the use of that tool in using that case study. So you get to learn a little bit about how to use a tool and how to manage a tool that you can then apply in the field, but also you get to understand and know different case studies from around the world. And of course, everything then you can download the printable version of the tools, and get to actually understand everything that we are using and how we are using. So this is a little bit about the e-learning course and how and why we developed it. It truly is a very compact way of showcasing some of the best learnings that WWF has recorded and has around the globe, and things that are being used right now. I am gonna show you, you can have here the, oh, sorry, the QR code if you want to register now. It's a free course. I know you're gonna be shared now also the link in the chat, so that you can access to the course, and you can get to see about yourself and understand everything that is within this e-learning course. So I think I'm gonna pass the voice again to Chris for some closing remarks, and thank you so much everyone for your attendance.
Thank you, Andrea. And I know Javier is no longer connected, but I did want to acknowledge SmartFish contribution to this webinar, just to ground everything that we have been discussing. And I want to thank everyone for joining us today. I think it's really important for the Small Scale Fisheries Hub to share the resources that we're hosting on our website and our platform. We want to open this space to other organizations and other people who want to use this to explore and share whatever they are working on that supports small scale fisheries organizations around the world. In terms of new activities or activities coming up for the Small Scale Fisheries Hub, I want to signal two big important things. One, keep your eyes open, because in May we are co-hosting another webinar with Rise Up on the rules of conduct to work with small-scale fisheries movements across the globe. And of course, we are supporting the organization of the Small-Scale Fisheries Summit this summer. So we're going to be sharing information through our platform as well in the dedicated landing page of the platform. It's quite easy to find because it's on the first website, and we would love for you to share your feedback with us about this session. So if you can take a couple of minutes to fill out this session poll, you will be making us a huge favor, so we can continue to improve and best serve you guys as our main audience. So we really appreciate your time on this. Valerie, Andrea, I know Javier is gone, but thank you so much for sharing the information you have on community conservation enterprises. Congratulations on this new e-course. We are so excited to be hosting that resource within the resource library of the Hub. Kat, Morris, thank you so much for your support as part of the SSF Hub team, handling all the technical aspects of this webinar. And if there is nothing else anyone to share, I want to thank all of you for coming to join us this morning, this afternoon, this evening, and we hope you have a very nice day. Thank you so much.